Have you ever gotten really close to something that you wanted badly? I mean, so bad that you could feel it. You worked so hard for it, you dedicated time, effort, and energy to it, and it just didn't work out. The final result, at the end of the day, the only thing you heard was no. How do you feel? How do you recover? How do you get up? What happens when you get close to something and it seems just like exactly what you're looking for, but it really isn't the case? And you need to say no. Do you have the strength within you in order to do so? Will you take the actions that need to be taken in order to achieve the outcomes and results that you're really looking for? What about saying no? What about telling that thing that's been holding you back no? Or telling the person that's been holding you back no? The relationship that isn't working? No. The opportunities that aren't coming? No. If failure keeps coming your way, are you willing to tell it no? If you aren't getting the success you're looking for, are you willing to look at the strategies you've been taking, the efforts you've been giving, and say no? I'm willing to do more. I'm capable of doing more. No more. Oftentimes, depending on the situation, hearing the word no can be one of the most powerful forces in our life, for good or bad. A perfectly timed no can set you up for success that you never even dreamed of, or a wrongly timed no can set you up for a life of misery and disaster. Which one are you choosing? But even beyond that, what happens when you are told no? When the door is slammed in your face, do you give up? Do you tell yourself no along with the no that they gave you? Or do you find a new way to regroup? Is it even worth regrouping? The truth is, sometimes in life, you need to stop. Sometimes in life, you need to give it a rest. Sometimes in life, you need to just let it go. And no is the best thing you can say, do, or live. And so with that being said, no can't simply be a word. It also must come with some deeds. What if by saying no, the very thing that you've been hoping, wishing, praying, building, fighting for is right there at your fingertips? It's just waiting on you to say no to the other things that's been holding you back. If lack of discipline is what's been stopping you, you can say no to it. If lack of finances is what's been holding you back, you can create strategies. You can come up with methods in order to get to the bag if you need to. But are you willing to say no to the lifestyle that you've been living? Are you willing to say no to who you previously have been? Are you willing to say no to the former version of yourself, the lower version of yourself? And are you willing to say yes to the best version of you? Today we want to talk about the idea and concept of saying, embracing, and accepting the power of no. Because you're going to hear it. You're not going to always receive a yes. You're not going to always get what you want. In fact, many times you need to be the one saying no. But if you don't have that in you, and if you don't understand the power of this word, how can you do it? Because when you have been fighting and praying and working and building and giving it your all to get something, if the only thing separating you from that very goal is the ability to say no to one more temptation, if the only thing keeping you from that dream relationship is you telling yourself no to everything that's been stopping it, how can you ever get there? What about saying no to spending your time and energy on places and people that aren't quite right? If you know it's not paying dividends, if you know that it's only tearing you down, bringing you down, maybe it's time to say no. Because your willingness to say no and your understanding and acceptance of hearing that word right back when it comes to you is everything. For sure you're going to get told no. For sure you're going to have to say no. But what is your relationship with that powerful two-letter word? No. And so today we want to get into it. Today we want to talk about why so many people struggle with it and what you can do to be better. How you can recognize and build that discernment so that you know when to say no. I recently watched a podcast where the host and the interviewee were talking about building motivation and discipline and getting through tough things. And there's this very specific part of your brain where every single time you push through a difficult thing, it becomes larger. And in certain people, this part of their brain is even larger than most. And this part of your brain only grows once you push through and do something you didn't want to do. Maybe you've been avoiding going to the gym. When you push through it, this part of your brain gets bigger. Maybe you've been avoiding saving that money and not going out to eat on weekends. When you push through, when you do the thing that you didn't want to do, but you know it's good for you, you say no to short-term gratification and you say yes to the long-term success that you've really been wanting. You say no to underachieving. You say no to selling and cutting yourself short. And you say yes to the things that truly matter most. What about opportunities? Saying no to the right or wrong opportunity can have ripple effects that change your entire life. In today's world, everybody's looking for a leg up. And part of looking for that leg up is everybody wants a way to get rich quick. And so what if you said no to the get rich quick scheme and you decided to build from the ground up? What if instead of trying to find a quick hustle that you could quickly flip and make some quick dough, what if you recognize that the long run is really where it's at? Which isn't to say that there's anything wrong with making money in the short term, but what if you build something, a money machine, a success machine that could pay you dividends well into the future? That's better than just making a little bit of money right now. Which one are you choosing? What are you saying no to? Will you say no to the short-term gratification of the quick flip hustle? Or will you say no to putting your head down, being humble from now until the rest of your life? You've either been choosing or been hearing that word no consistently. But what do you say to that relationship that isn't working out anymore? That you know is run its course and you know it's time? Are you strong enough to say no and bless you and them with the opportunity to move on and find better? How can you have a firm foundation when you built the very thing upon quicksand? It won't happen. What if moving on isn't the question? What if you find the right person, you found the right situation, and you need to say no to the things that you've been doing that are making things worse? Maybe you need to work on things. Maybe you need to communicate. But have you been saying no to opening up? If your ear is closed and you've been saying no to it, how can you ever listen, learn, and grow and become better? You won't. No is powerful, but also knowing when to use it is powerful. Maybe you're saying no to things you should be saying yes to. Maybe you've been too free-flowing with the no's. Maybe you're saying no to the very things that'll make you better and yes to the things that are dragging you down. And once again, this is where the power of discernment comes in. I'm not saying that you got to tell everyone and everything no. If it looks like fun, you can't do it. What I'm saying is that we all need to invest in, develop, and build that also important thing that we talk about so much, which is simply to properly evaluate. Sometimes the relationship is right, but the timing is wrong. Sometimes you got the perfect opportunity right in front of your face, and you're afraid to take it. By the way, self-sabotage is a real thing. What happens when the perfect opportunity is right there in front of your face and all you need to do is lock in, be a little bit more disciplined, and you will win? Oftentimes people say no to themselves far before the world tells them yes. Discernment is what we're talking about today. Being able to recognize and understand when to use the very gifts you've been given. And to be clear, if you have been blessed with the privilege to be able to say no, boy, you should take advantage of it. If you've been blessed with the power and ability and the freedom to be able to say no to things that you know aren't serving you and you don't, maybe it's you that's holding you back. Maybe you are saying no to yourself, and that's the reason why you haven't seen the results you want to. For so long in my life, I struggled with food and eating and being disciplined in very specific areas of my life. And it wasn't until I said no more did things get better. It wasn't until I said no to pizza every single weekend that I started to see some results. It wasn't until I said no to randomly spending money on things that I don't need that I started to see results. It wasn't until I said no to shortchanging myself, no to not being the best for myself, no to not making disciplines that'll lead me to the top, that I started to see the changes. And it happens all throughout the day. From the very moment we all wake, there are decisions to be made. As soon as you wake up, what is it that you do? And if you don't believe me, consider this. What's the first thing you do when you wake up? For sure, there's something you choose, but there are also plenty of things that you choose not to do. Knock out a couple of push-ups, do a little bit of reading, maybe plan some goals, maybe get into that journal. Even the time you choose to wake up is up to you. And if your life is busy and chaotic and you got no control over your sleep schedule, I'm not talking to you. But if you determine when you sleep and you determine when you wake and you determine what you do within the hours of sleeping and waking, you also determine your future to a large extent. The world we live in today is often full of these two massive extreme dichotomies. One of them says everything in life is up to you and you gotta pull yourself up by the bootstraps. The other one says, even though there are some things that are up to you, there's so many forces that are working against you. What if both of them are true? What if the only way to get you up and out of the thing that you're in is through the self? What if you got to look in the mirror and question yourself and the things that you've been doing, the way that you've been thinking, where you spend your time in order to build the strength to say no to the things you need to? What if choosing to be disciplined and consistent, intentional, are all up to you? What if it's waiting on you to say no to procrastination, to laziness, to being distracted? What if everything is within your choice? If you choose when you wake up, when you go to bed, how much time you spend on your phone, doom scrolling, how much time you spend on video games, streaming services, things that don't build you or get you closer to your goals. You're choosing your destiny. You're choosing your fate. You're choosing the life you live today and tomorrow and years to come. But what are you choosing? We're often told that we have very little choice in the outcomes of our life, but that's simply not true. And so when we talk about discipline, what are we really talking about? Saying no to things in the short term that you know won't get you that long-term results. It's the idea of saying, even though in this very moment, I would enjoy whatever it is that I want to do, long-term I got goals. Long-term I got a bigger vision, and long-term I'm working towards something better that will not be stopped. How can I get there if I'm unwilling to say no to the things that are holding me up? The number one person that any human on this earth lies to is ourselves. We tell ourselves that it's the world that's holding us back. It's people that's stopping us from getting up. It's society that's bringing us down. And maybe on some level it's true. But it's only as true as we choose to make it. Your mind is really powerful. And so if you choose to tell yourself, everyone and everybody has control over me and my fate, they will. But by that same token, if you choose to tell yourself, I'm in control of things, I'm going to determine what's going to happen. Maybe I can't control every single aspect of life, but the things I can't control, I will. And when it's time to say no to whatever ain't going to build me up, I'm going to say no to it without a question, because I got it in me. And because I know I'm building towards something even bigger and even better. And so as good as that short-term gratification might feel, that discipline and saying no in the long term is even better. Oftentimes before I go to the gym, I'm second guessing it and I'm questioning it. I don't want to be in there. I don't want to be working. It's not going to be fun. It's not what I'm looking forward to. I'd much rather play video games. I'd much rather scroll through social media. But what's going to lead me to what I actually want? You see, the social media, the video games, the TV, it might be good for a moment. But after an hour or 2 or 3, I look up and what have I done or accomplished? I'm not saying never kick back and enjoy these things, but you got to put everything into perspective. If I know I haven't been to the gym yet, and I know that going to the gym is going to get me that much closer to my ultimate goal, which is being physically fit, which is being my healthiest self, which is giving myself the best chance at a healthy and positive future, how can I do that if I'm cutting corners constantly? How could I ever get mad at other people for blocking my blessings when I won't get out of my own way? If I'm the very person that's causing me to slip up, who can I look at but the man in the mirror and say, do better? And so that's what I'm here to talk about today. The idea of looking at the mirror, looking at yourself, and when you receive that no, taking it on the chin and keep it moving, because we got perspective, because we have discernment, and also knowing when to say no and being okay with that as well. Because the extra cheap meal that you passed up in favor of the gym, you're not going to miss it. There's no better feeling than laying in bed at night and knowing for a fact that you gave it your all today. You left no crumbs. You didn't leave your fate up to others. You took matters into your own hands. That's a powerful feeling. And you could have it, but will you do it for yourself? And what are you waiting on? And so if all of this is true, on some level, we got to conclude that discipline is a form of self-love. What happens when there's a person or relationship or situation in your life that you know you need to address, that you know you need to have a conversation with, that you know you need to communicate about? When you say no to communication and progress and talking and just figuring things out, having that big conversation that might be hard, you prevent yourself from the success that you want. You also hold back your partner or friend or whoever else from achieving what they ultimately could. Somebody has to be the one to step up and say, we're going to knock this thing out. We also can't talk about discipline without talking about the counterpart of it, which is fatigue. When you've been in those trenches for a really long time, saying no or yes to the thing that you need to do can feel like torture. You've been running, you've been working, you've been pushing, doing everything you can, and you just got a little bit more to go. If you say no to it, it might feel good in that moment, and it might be the right thing. Maybe you've been overtrained. But if you know you got it in you, if you know that pushing further is only going to make you better, if you know that giving it that little bit of extra, pushing through towards the end is going to make you better, you got to do it. And even if you don't know it, by pushing through and getting the thing done, not only does that part of your brain grow, but something in your heart and your chest starts growing too. When you've been in those trenches, working, grinding, giving it your all for a really long time, fatigue often sets in. And it doesn't matter if you're the most powerful man on earth. When your body and mind and everything else is fatigued, we tend to make worse decisions. It becomes easier to backslide and fall off track. So part of what you got to do is choose to get the rest you need so that your mind and body isn't fatigued. But if you can't, which oftentimes you won't, you still got to be able to say no. What happens if in the moment of your most fatigue, you still decide to lock in and say no to the thing that's going to bring you down? That's going to turn you into a different type of beast. You said no even when yes would have been so easy. You said no when most people would have given up. That's going to do something to you. If you want to be different, you got to be different. If you want different results, you got to take different actions. And so if you're able to say no at the time in which you're most fatigued, there's no way you won't get the results you're looking for, or at least get closer to whatever it is you seek. With that discipline, with that ability to say no, with the unwillingness to fall to fatigue, with the active and deliberate choice to get the rest that you know you need in order to perform at your best, eventually you're going to start reaching heights that you never thought were even possible. Once you start reaching levels that weren't even on your radar, you're going to start receiving temptations and distractions that you never even thought of. And so the more you build and develop, resist the fatigue, get the rest that you need to, create a plan and actually execute. You're consistent, you're doing what it takes, saying no to things you don't need to. There's no way you won't rocket to the moon. There's no way you won't make it to the top. But on that journey to the top, guess what else is coming with you? Even more temptation, even bigger pitfalls. The higher up you go, the farther you can also fall. And so when we see people who make it to the top really quickly, maybe in a way that they didn't necessarily earn it or deserve it, we also see them fall back to the bottom just as quickly. There's a reason why people hit the lottery and then go broke within years of getting all of that money, because they never developed the skills it took in order to have that amount of money. So just because I plop it in your lap and just because you have it doesn't mean you were ready for it. But that discipline, that mental training, everything it took to build you up there is also the thing it's going to take to keep you there. And so when it comes to success, when it comes to being frustrated at the blocks that are being put in your way, the ability to overcome those blocks are the reason why you'll remain successful. It's the ability to recognize and discern that this thing that's in my way isn't enough to stop me. When you get that, when you understand it, you can keep going. When you're at the top but you never develop the skills in order to get there, how will you maintain what it is you built? You won't, because you didn't. And so when Biggie said more money, more problems, he wasn't joking. But just because new levels might mean new devils, it doesn't mean that you don't also have angels with you fighting for you on your behalf. And so if you're able to work and build yourself up to a level where you're able to meet those new devils, guess what? You're not alone. For everybody that's out there attacking you, trying to destroy you, you got just as many angels on your shoulder looking out for you. You got just as much good on your side looking out for you. Just as many people rooting for you who want to see you win. But will you say no today so you can build yourself up to that place maybe 2, 3, 5 years from now? What if the success you get today is based on the work you did 3 years ago? Well, 3 years in the future is that today. What are you doing with it? What are you saying no to? This is why it's so important to be purposeful and move with intent. Because when it's time to work, we put the work in. But also when it's time to relax, kick back, and enjoy life, we can do that as well because we know we put the work in. We said no when it was time to, so now we can say yes to the fun and goodness that we want to as well. It's powerful. The other thing is when you constantly choose the short-term gratification or to avoid the hard tasks that you know you need to be getting done, the work you do becomes infinitely harder, and it's all because of your choice. It's all by your doing. It's all at your hand, and it's not even necessary. Oftentimes it takes us getting to a breaking point in order to get to our very first no. But once you get there and once you're able to say no even one time, there's nothing stopping you from being able to do it again. You can start to build the momentum, but momentum starts with the very first step. Once you've had enough, once you're ready for better, once you know for a fact that a change could and would come if you simply lock in and become disciplined, that's when a no becomes so much easier. And that's when a no eventually turns into a yes for the opportunity you've been seeking. You cannot build momentum if you haven't taken the first step. So without that very first no, what do you have? You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be without flaw. But it will not come until you're ready to change, ready to evolve, and ready to become that better version of yourself. Could you just be a little bit better than you were yesterday? Can you just say no to 1 or 2 more things that you did last week? If you did, it would make all the difference in the world. It might not seem like it, but small steps can have a really big impact. But you gotta take the first one or suffer the consequences of a person who didn't. You don't get to complain about the results you didn't get or the results you want when every single time you had a choice, you chose the short-term gratification. No is powerful. The other thing that happens when you say no to the things that you need to, it removes so much of the doubt and fears that you had about getting to that next step. Maybe the reason why you're unwilling to say no is because you're afraid of what's on the other side. Maybe the reason why you're afraid of accepting the word no is because you're afraid that what's coming next ain't gonna be good enough. But what if you could live a life without fear? What if you didn't have to walk on eggshells? What if you weren't so worried about the outcome and focused way more on the process? You will win every single time. And so with that being said, a big part of being able to say no is understanding and embracing the idea of the process. If all you're focused on is the end result only comes one time. And often it's not our direct decision to say yes or no whether or not it happens. But what you can't control is the process. What you can't control is what you put into it. And if every single day you say no to the small things that have been tripping you up, how can you not win? And it will be at that moment that you'll have every single reason to be confident, to know that you can do it, to know that you're built for it and destined for greatness. And so I want you to think about it this way. If every single time that temptation comes up, you're able to say no just a little bit more, eventually you'll get stronger. Eventually you'll develop the will, and eventually you'll be able to build some momentum that gives you an unshakable confidence. And of course, in order to make this conversation truly balanced, we got to talk about the dark side of the no too. Because what happens when a person has every reason to be confident, every reason to believe in themselves, every reason to know that they're more than capable of getting done the things they need to, but they don't? Do you still choose to be self-conscious? Do you still choose fear and doubt? If so, you're telling yourself no. What happens when a person chooses not to live up to their greatest potential and instead embrace mediocrity, procrastination, Excuses. That's a possibility too. And the thing people often don't realize about momentum, good or bad, is that it can have lasting effects. You might think you're procrastinating just one time, but maybe what you're really doing is building a lifetime of momentum towards procrastination. But what are you choosing? There's also the inevitability of hearing no and how we choose to react to it. Well, what happens when you were expecting a yes, but you receive a no? Expectations are what leads to disappointment. Do you allow that door that slammed in your face to completely shut you down, to completely destroy your dreams or whatever you've been working towards? Or do you find a new way? Do you get a little creative? Do you think outside the box? One of the most powerful feelings on earth is when you could choose to react one way, but you don't. As a kid, I remember playing video games with my cousin all the time. And I remember one particular day when I couldn't beat him. Nothing I could do was working. I got so angry at the end of the game that I slammed my fist down and I broke my VCR. Well, as a result of me slamming my fist and breaking that VCR in that split second, now I can't watch movies anymore on my own TV. Now I gotta go upstairs. Now I gotta go to a different TV. Now I can't do everything I used to because in that very moment, I couldn't say no to my own emotions. If I could have just held on for a little bit longer, just said no for 5 to 10 seconds more, I'd probably never even make that decision. I learned my lesson in that moment. You can't always react, and a lot of times you gotta say no to the emotions you're feeling because they'll lead you to an even worse outcome. Because I chose to mishandle that situation, I chose to create a much bigger problem for myself. And so now when I bring it to present day, I gotta move a whole lot differently. And so as bad as that situation was for me as a kid, I knew I couldn't just let it pass. I knew that life, the universe, God was trying to teach me something bigger. And what it was trying to teach me was patience. I often have people ask me in my daily personal life, do you ever get angry? Are you ever mad? Are you ever upset? I am, but it's not often because I know oftentimes anger is a useless emotion. I say no to the reckless anger in favor of something more productive. Oftentimes things happen that are frustrating, that don't make me happy. But if in that moment I choose to respond with rage, I choose not to say no to my weak emotions in that moment, I'm going to choose failure. I'm going to choose to set myself back a little bit, and it's not going to be worth it. Recently, in the last couple of years, I had somebody break into my car and literally steal my steering wheel. On the day in which it happened, it was a Sunday. I had just taken a shower, gotten cleaned up. I was ready to go to church and have a good day, the whole nine. And my steering wheel is gone. In that very moment, I had to make a decision. Will I choose rage and anger, or will I choose discipline and focus? Will I choose to blow up and blame the universe, or will I look at myself and say, was there anything I could have done better? Fast forward to this year. Is this situation setting me up for a bigger yes? And so in that very moment, the thief or robber or whoever stole my steering wheel was saying to me, no, you're not going to get to drive today. But I didn't let it shake me, because what's the point of having faith if in the darkest moments you lose it? Instead of being negative, instead of flipping out and going crazy, I said, you know what? I'm going to be patient. I'm going to look at this as an opportunity. As bad as I thought that situation was, as annoying and frustrating as it was, the power, the peace that it gave me to not react was something I have never experienced before. Car is something that's really personal. It's how you get around. It's how you make your money. It's how you get from point A to B. It's how you go and get groceries. It's how you go and spend time with the people you love. And it felt like it was taken away from me. But I didn't let it shake me. I said no. No to doubt. No to fear. No to being angry. And the end result was a bigger blessing. The truth of the matter is that car needed a lot of work done to it. It had a lot of issues with it. And so because this person did what they did, it set me up for a much bigger blessing. And I don't even need to get into what the bigger blessing was, but it was way bigger. It set me up for better. And I can't help but believe that if in that moment I had chosen to overreact, I had chosen to do the wrong thing, I had chosen to make a quick and rash decision, I could have easily fumbled that bag. But I chose to be patient, I chose to be deliberate, I chose to be intentional and take my time so that I could make the best decision possible. But what if in that very moment I chose rage? What if in that very moment I chose not to? What if in that very moment I chose to see things differently, to see myself as a victim, to see myself as anything other than capable of making this situation better? I probably wouldn't have. I might have sat on it too long. I might have hesitated and not done what I needed to. I said no, and you can too. And so how we choose to deliver and receive no could mean everything. As a kid, the moment in which I wouldn't say no to my emotions simply meant that I couldn't watch movies. But as an adult, the stakes are often much higher. As a person who's successful, the stakes are often much higher. As a person in a relationship, or with money, or with a career, or success, or finances, or all of the areas of life, the stakes are so much higher. And so you gotta be better. Maybe as a kid, you were taught those lessons so you can take them with you as you grow. The lessons you learned as a kid, the lesson you're learning while you're at the bottom, are gonna be what keeps you at the top, as I mentioned before. What are you doing with those lessons? What are you doing with your no? Will you embrace it? If you say no to something, but barely or begrudgingly, is that really the same as saying no to something and being firm in your decision? Say no, embrace no, understand and respect the power of no, and watch how quickly the blessings and yeses will start to stack up in your favor. Maybe saying no to that job opportunity is the right move. Maybe it's setting you up for something better. Or maybe saying no to that interview is the biggest mistake you can make. Maybe saying no to yourself, doubting your abilities, is keeping you from the success you're ultimately capable of. Maybe saying no to the discipline that you know is within you is preventing you from your ultimate goals and dreams. But what are you saying no to? Who are you saying no to? When and how are you doing it? You do get a choice. When you say no to another cheat meal, when you say no to wasting money in places you don't have it, when you say no to cutting corners, what are you doing for yourself? Not only are you building momentum in the physical world, but you're also building momentum in that mental as well. When you say no to another cheat meal, when you say no to another spend and splurge, not only are you building momentum in the real world, you're also building momentum up here. You're building that mental strength, and you're making it so that in the future, once you get more, you're capable of handling it. Maybe saying no to what you want right now is the best thing you could do. Maybe saying no to that situation where you feel comfortable is the worst thing you could do. If growth only comes from being a bit uncomfortable, maybe saying no to that situation that has you feeling so comfortable is the perfect move for you. This is the infinite evolution. To say no to inconsistency, procrastination, excuses, and generally not living up to what it is you're capable of because you know you got it in you. No, maybe in that very moment, to give up is the best thing you could do. Maybe you need to stop and say no, or maybe you need to push and keep going. Whatever the case, I want you building and developing that discernment, knowing that if you do, success is waiting for you on the other side of it. This is the infinite evolution. No, maybe saying no to the opportunity that's right in front of you is going to set you up for the next one. Or maybe this is the very opportunity that you can't say no to. Whatever the case, I want you to have the discernment to be able to make the right decision. Your destiny is in your hand. You get to choose, you get to decide, and most importantly, you get to say no. This is the infinite evolution.